Okay, Dr. Caldwell.
I'll
Would you
begin.
please, we're ready to begin the meeting. Would you please read the special announcement from on the board meeting agenda?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General. And thank you for your work putting this together. Welcome, everybody, to the New Brunswick Public Schools Board of Education meeting, April 28th, starting at 7 p.m. I'm going to read the special announcement, and then we'll read the regular announcements. Please be advised that due to the current state of emergency and public health emergency declared by Governor Phil Murphy pursuant to Executive Orders 103 and 104, and in effort to prevent further spread of COVID-19, the Board of Education meeting will be revised from attending this Board of Education meeting in person to telephonic conferencing for this public Board of Education meeting. Members of the public will be able to give public comments during the public comment portion of the meeting through telephonic conferencing. The telephonic conferencing system will be activated at 6:45 p.m. on April 28, 2020. All board members, staff, and public will participate in the meeting by calling the numbers listed below and inputting the meeting ID number, which you all have done. The regular scheduled monthly Board of Education meeting will start at 7:05 in order to let participants time to access the meeting. The opening announcement. Adequate public notice of this meeting was provided by the Secretary of the Board on January 29, 2020 to the Home News Tribune and the Clerk of the City of New Brunswick. The time and location of this meeting and all meetings of this body are posted in City Hall, 78 Bayard Street, New Brunswick. Mr. General, roll call, please.
You are unmuted.
Thank you. Mr. Ortiz. Mrs. Sadowski.
Here.
Mrs. Seawood.
Here.
Ms. Sevilla.
Here.
Mrs. Shukaitis.
Here.
Mr. Spencer.
Here.
Ms. Varela.
Here.
Dr. Caldwell.
Here.
Mrs. Solis. She is not present. So we do have a quorum. One note before we get started, Dr. Caldwell. I have allowed all participants to unmute themselves. So what I will do is I will leave all participants on mute. And then so if during roll call and if any of the board members wish to speak, if you hit your unmute button, you should be able to speak at that point in time.
Mr. General, can you leave it? We'll do the flag salute now. So if you could leave it open, that would be good. I'll ask Dr. Johnson to lead us in the flag salute.
Great.
Thank you. Yep. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of
United States
of America,
of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
which it stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice.
justice
for
for all.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I would like to begin the meeting with a moment of silence for a number of people. One, I had a chance to speak to President Solis, whose head is in a vice. She's in major pain tonight. Otherwise, she really wanted to be here. But also, I heard that a friend had passed. I just heard that moments ago. That Bobby Racine, who's been a friend of the district of New Brunswick, just passed away. And Steve Farkas, who was a graduate but also an extraordinary coach here in the district. Also, for those who have lost their life during this horrible COVID-19 and others who've lost their life at this time, could we have a moment of silence, please?
You are muted. You are unmuted.
Great, thank you. Thank you all very much for that moment of silence. Item number 3 on the agenda, the minutes. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes from March 3rd and the 2 minutes from March 24th?
So moved.
Second? Second. So, roll call, Mr. General.
All right, so I have a motion from Mrs. Seawood, a second from Mr. Ortiz. Mr. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood.
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla.
Yes.
Mrs. Shikaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Zarella,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Now, item number 4, I'd like to call on Dr. Johnson for the superintendent's report.
Yes, good evening, and I hope everyone is doing well and everyone is being safe. For the month of March, we had 52 suspensions, 1 case of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Our student enrollment was at 10,290. Student attendance was at 97%, and our certificated staff attendance was at 98%. I just would like a couple of minutes just to give a brief update on where we are since coronavirus started. Since it started appearing in the country towards the end of January, we started to take a proactive approach to plan for every aspect on how the school district could support and provide for the community. With remote learning becoming a new way for classrooms to be held, we moved very quickly to provide support for our staff on using virtual tools as well as ways to personalize and enhance student instruction. Engagement and online learning opportunities have become a priority for how we instruct our students even when they are at home. We have strived to make the learning experience positive for our students and for our families, enriching and meaningful. And our staff has been at the forefront for trying new and exciting ways to teach, and we are pressing for them to be innovative during these times. I just want to give a snippet of what our analytics have showed us for the month of March. We have noticed through our analytics that 87% of our learners use the Google Suite applications weekly. 74% of the learners actively engage at least 8 hours weekly using Google Suite, specifically more so during after-school hours between the hours of 4 o'clock and 11 p.m. 85% of our teachers actively use G Suite daily while teaching. And also, we have noticed that during the month of March, we had 18,663 video hangouts or video meetings. This is where teachers and meet with students. So that number is also letting us know that engagement is happening. To this date, we have provided 7,300 Chromebook devices with Wi-Fi access to all our students in grades 1 through 12. We have provided our staff with professional development opportunities that have demonstrated the tools they need to assign, to post, to record, to meet virtually, and even to live stream events with our students. Through the training and practice, the staff have engaging students through the Google Classrooms regularly, and using other type of online platforms to create this remote learning, but it hasn't been new to them. I just want to point out that we have been positioning our staff to use technology way ahead a couple years back. So this has not been new to us, and actually has given us the ability to be ahead of the curve. Just to give you an idea, this past April 20th, we had a PD Virtual Learning Summit where we provided support to all district personnel in navigating distant learning. We offered about 40 sessions where staff had an opportunity to work through all types of virtual tools they were utilizing to engage students through remote learning. A lot of these tools had to do with gamification, Google Slides, Google Earth, screencastifying, and a lot of other technology-rich programs. We have also held a number of virtual district recent events. You may notice this on our Twitter feeds. We have some of the events to mention. We have one that's called Go Hard or Go It's about yoga and meditation for our staff and students. Also, virtual story time, where family friends provide story sessions for our students in grades K to 2. We have afternoon tea and visual arts, where we also do story time and art activities, all with a cup of tea, which is pretty intriguing. We held a very well community event that was called NBPS Ask the Doctors webinar. And I would like to thank the board members for bringing this to our attention, and specifically also Mr. Guidance, who helped organize this. where we had a virtual COVID-19 information session presented by Dr. Shilpa Pai and Dr. Misha Malhotra from Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. And we are also now working to do some in-house events like this as well, which should be coming within a couple weeks. We have fitness and wellness on Thursdays, a quick afternoon workout session that, I think it's around noon time. It requires no special equipment. And we also have some dance-based warm-ups that kind of give our students a brain break. Other things that have happened, NJTV has a learning series that is aired every day. The Department of Education has stressed for students to watch this learning series. We are happy to say that our teachers, we have 2 teachers that have been part of it. We have our Ms. Jennifer Galowski, who did a physical education session, and it was good to watch her live and to know that other teachers and students were watching across the state. And we're looking forward to this Friday, May 1st. We have another teacher by the name of Donovan Smalls who will be teaching from 12 to 1 o'clock. Lastly, we definitely want to thank all the volunteers that have signed up to provide meals for our students. Today, we served over 20,000 lunches today. And on Friday, we'll be serving 3 days worth of meals. So we are actually given an extra day now for a weekend meal. So families will be receiving 6 days worth of food each week instead of 5. That concludes my report, and I encourage everyone to be well and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for that amazing report. Before I take a motion to accept the report, I just wanted to commend you and the district. I have an opportunity, being president of the Educational Services Commission, to work with a lot of districts around the state of New Jersey. I don't think there's a district in New Jersey that's doing more for its students. There are many districts out there that aren't even having live classes. They're just sending in homework. And the fact that we're not only doing that, but I also know there are some students that are stuck inside. There's some students that don't have a common home. We're going out of our way to make sure that they have food. So I want to compliment everyone in the district for the amazing stuff that you're doing on behalf of students. You only know how good a team is when they're in the midst of a crisis. You have stepped up above and beyond what's called, so I want to thank you. Is there a motion to accept his report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Mr. Egan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shikaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Varela,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Mr. General. Moving on to item number 5, our student representative report. Is Ms. Jaylene Martinez on the line? No, I guess
No,
she's not on.
she is. She couldn't make it tonight.
She couldn't. Okay. Understandable. Moving to item number 6, our facilities committee report. Mr. Edward Spencer. Ed?
Yes, Dr. Caldwell. I'm presenting the facility report. We've completed the solar panels. They're now activated. We'll get the results on the savings as far as the energy. The middle school fencing is completed. They're performing some additional refinements, but as I had the opportunity to go by, it looks very good, very secured, and I'm really, really proud of the work that the school district has done. The New Lincoln Annex project. This is the timelines of the projects to date. The board was first contacted in late June, early July, to see if we would be interested in selling the Lincoln Annex School in exchange for a new school. The board first inquired about where the new school would be built. The area they gave us was 131 Jersey Avenue. The board initially approved locations with many questions and issues to resolve and get further info on. The board then waited for the official proposal to comment because it was not known if the offer would actually materialize. The formal proposal received was on February the 10th. Once proposal received, board worked with architects and engineers to vet out two potential sites, 50 Jersey Avenue and 131 Jersey Avenue. Board began site selection committee with parents and staff of Lincoln Annex School to vet out the two properties. A committee met
from the community.
twice. It was waiting for formal site analysis. Site analysis submitted to the board was on April 10th. Board Facility Committee reviewed and made recommendations to the full board to proceed with 50 Jersey Avenue due to it being a more suitable site than 131 Jersey Avenue. The Lincoln Annex Site Selection Committee received reports and made recommendations to Facility Committee to proceed with 50 Jersey Avenue due to it being a more suitable site. The board hired an attorney to negotiate the terms of the agreement. The terms of the agreement have been resolved to the satisfaction of the board. They are reflected in the exchange agreement, which we're going to approve. Comparison to current schools, this is the comparison. This new school will house over 350 more students than their current school and is a significant upgrade to the current Lincoln Annex School. Please see site comparison report on the website for a detailed comparison. The new school will have a dedicated spot for bus drop-off, and the parent drop-off. It will have a high school-sized gymnasium, a cafeteria, and a multi-purpose room. It will also have a playground for outdoor recreation, something that is sorely missing at the current school. In the past 26 years that I have been a board member, we have built 6 new schools. The schools we have built since I have been on the board are purchase of the Central Office Adult School, the Lower Sterling School, McKinley K Center, the High School, the Redshaw School, and the Lincoln Annex. Every one of those schools have had similar, and in some cases worse, environmental issues than the proposed site at 50 Jersey Avenue. For every school, we have followed all the processes to achieve Department of Education and Department of Environmental Protection in order to ensure not only the safety of all staff and students, but compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. We're extremely confident we can remediate the site beyond the standards necessary to ensure the safety of the students for generations to come. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer, for that thorough report, and just thank you and the committee involved. I know how thoroughly you reviewed this, given its importance. So great work. We'll move to item number 7. Ms. Sadowski, the Athletic Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. New Brunswick Athletics update, April 27th. All high school and middle spring sports teams have created Google Classrooms with their athletes and provided them with personal workouts, drills, team building exercises, instructional videos with hopes of being ready to return to the field sometime later this spring, if not in the fall. Coaches are reaching out to their athletes to monitor grades, /progress, as well as serve as support system weekly. Any concerns they have are brought to the athletic director's attention, and as we move through this challenging spring season, all athletic academic progress is being monitored by our Play It Smart staff. Play It Smart has been working with a national platform called AthLife Foundation Because of New Brunswick's commitment to the student athletes and the academic athletic coach, they are willing to help us when needed. They have offered an opportunity where we get our student athletes together on Google Meets, and a pro athlete comes and talks to our kids for about 30 minutes. We are currently having a women's professional soccer player, Christy Pierce Rampone, is scheduled to talk with our girls, and she will be checking in with the girls soon. We plan on making this as a surprise, which I just gave away, with her popping in to talk to the young ladies. We are also doing this currently with Coach Harris and the football team, and an NFL Hall of Famer, Vernon Davis, as well. Some of the outstanding results of this winter are wrestling. The GMC Female Wrestler of the Year is also a state champion, Curly Borbor. She's a sophomore. Her season record was 17-0. Her career record is 32-4. She's the GMC number 1 at 180, region first at 180, and New Jersey first in the state at 180. Curly has completed one of the most impressive seasons in New Jersey scholastic wrestling in 2020. Following a freshman campaign that saw Curly get her name on the map, Curly ensured that wrestling fans across the state were aware that she was a force to be reckoned with. In her sophomore campaign, Curly posted the undefeated season, compiling a 17-0 record on her way to a state championship. Curly's state championship was the first state title won by a New Brunswick female wrestler. Throughout the season, 16 of Curly's wins came by a pinfall. Additionally, Curly did not wrestle past the second period against any female in the state, nor did she allow a point to be scored on her until the state finals. Curly also captured a title at the prestigious Bloomfield tournament, and she won the GMC championship. Curly is an outstanding teammate and works tremendously hard in the wrestling room. Curly also carries a 3.9 GPA and is probably one of the nicest people you will ever meet off the mat. Curly is an active member on Team New Jersey in freestyle and Greco wrestling, and she is currently ranked 10th by USA Wrestling. The sky's the limit for this young woman, and the coaching staff is looking forward to her following her development over the next 2 seasons. Other awards for our students. The NJSI AA Scholar Athlete is Sergio Ramirez, soccer. GMC Scholar Athletes are Litzy Martinez Ruiz, female, volleyball. Zion Blanco, male, wrestling. GMC Sportsmanship, Zalma Herrera, female, track. And Oscar Pacheco, male, football. The Bill Denny Football Scholar Athlete is Ion Brown Miller, football. And the New Brunswick Athletic Hall of Fame Scholarship, Keyshawn Davila, wrestling, and the Female Athletic Hall of Fame Scholarship that will be announced soon. Unfortunately, all banquets have been canceled due to the pandemic for this spring. However, athletes will be sent their awards, and Mr. Steed, our athletic director, will get pictures and forward them sometime in June, hoping that maybe we can honor them late this summer. I also want to make an announcement that Maurice French, NBHS class of 2016, has signed with the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. And we wish Maurice all the luck in the world and hope to see him playing soon. I now need a motion to accept the bank reconciliation.
You are unmuted.
So moved.
Is there a second? Do we have a second?
Okay, roll call.
Second.
I'll
Could
second.
someone mute their phone, please? Please mute
Yeah,
the phone.
I got
Thank
the
you.
I got the second. Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mr. Steeler,
Yes.
Mr. Vegan,
Yes.
Mr. Shukaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Varela,
Yes.
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes,
Motion approved.
wonderful. Again, Pat, thank you for that wonderful report. It's amazing how extraordinary our athletes have been. you know, and so it's just a shame what's going on with the pandemic, but we'll be back. We'll be back. We'll move on to item number 8. Yep. Item number 8, the Curriculum Policy Committee report. Ms. Emma Seawood, Chair. Emma.
Okay. The Mr. Caldwell, the Curriculum and Policy Committee met, and the first thing I wanted to announce is some good news. Our Dr. Johnson has been selected as the 2020 New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy Superintendent of the Year. Now, this is for teachers of English and to speakers of other languages, New Jersey Bilingual Educators Incorporated. The honor recognizes Dr. Johnson's active support for those who are learning English and his understanding of how they contribute to their schools and communities. As many of you know, the Seal of Biliteracy is a program that was implemented in the last few years, and those graduates do receive special recognition on their diplomas when they graduate. So we want to, of course, commend Dr. Johnson for all his hard work and support all his efforts, it's really an honor for him to be selected as the Superintendent of the Year.
Thank you.
And the other thing, at the curriculum report, we received a technology update, and I'm going to ask Ms. Scusa if she would give us just a little more information about the technology update, because we've been very impressed, pleased with the progress that this district has made in regards to using technology and the way we were able to so quickly scale up when needed to move to online instruction, because we were so far along than many of the districts in New Jersey.
Much further along.
Yes. And we didn't just start in January, I'd like to emphasize again, but by Dr. Johnson's foresight and the forward thinking of using technology in the classroom, we were able to make the leap, I feel, to online instruction, more so than many school districts. So, Ms. Scusa, did you want to add anything?
Well, thank you, Mrs. Seawood. And yes, the district has been working very hard to make sure that our students are getting the devices that they need. As Dr. Johnson mentioned earlier, we are muted. Distributed more than 7,300 Chromebook devices to our students, and that includes students in grades 1 through 12. We've developed websites so that students can access information easily, so that they can have access to all the materials and resources that they need. In response to students who are having difficulty with their devices, we've developed a device depot that we've set up at New Brunswick Middle School on Thursday, and we allow staff, students, and families to come in and have their devices replaced or repaired as needed. And We are so pleased with the work that our staff is doing. As Dr. Johnson also mentioned, just in the month of March, we had 87% of our students using Google Apps each week. So we certainly have a lot to be proud of in New Brunswick Public Schools, and that includes the learning that we continue to do even virtually. Thanks for that opportunity, Mrs. Seawood.
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Gooser. In addition to those two items, which really are big ones, we also had resolutions that are included in terms of upgrades to the curriculum, and they're included on the consent agenda. Also, the policy committee reviewed some mandated policies, and there's a couple of new items that are just detailed administrative procedures. So all the mandated and revised policies are included on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mrs. Seawood, for that very, very thorough report. We appreciate it. But before I move on, I wanted to just thank Dr. Johnson for his incredible work. I don't think there's anyone in the state that deserves that. As you know, we have among the largest percentage of students who are English language learners. And just, Dr. Johnson, thank you for all of your great work, and congratulations to you. But as you know, your award is representative of the whole team. So we've got a great team. So congrats on behalf of the board. Thank you very much for your good work.
Thank
Moving
you.
on to moving on to item number 9, the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey. It's my report. As I mentioned, the Educational Services Commission services students with special needs who are on the autism spectrum, students who are dealing with multiple disabilities and emotional challenges. This is a particularly difficult time because they're students that respond to in-person support. But what the commission has done is through video instruction that the teachers have been able to help parents support their students in ways they hadn't before. So it's going as well as it can, but it's very, very difficult. And you know, the commission can't wait till we're able to move forward. But things are progressing, and Mark Finkelstein, the superintendent, who's former board president of New Brunswick, has done a great job of helping the commission through the crisis. I will now move to item number 10, the president's report. Since Ms. Solis is ill, I'll give the report. I will ask at the end of my report, Mr. Janarone, if you would, when I'm done, read the public speaking requirements. I wanted to begin, this is a very, very serious time, and this is a time when I know people who've passed on, I know people who have relatives. Many of you know people who have passed on. You know, there's some dangerous things going on, that people in positions of influence are actually are lying about things, and people are dying because of some of the lies that have been told. So I think we need to, in this time, need to be very, very serious about what's going on in the district. We have people who don't have students, have never had children in the district, telling us what's best for our students. We have people who've never built a school telling us about the dangers of environmental problems. We, as you heard from Mr. Spencer, we've built 6 schools. We've been through this process, actually a much more complex process. The same people are telling us that we should keep an old school worth $13 million and deny our students an opportunity to have a state-of-the-art $55 million school. If you look at the comparison of the school, we're talking about a school that currently has no playground, a school that has the new school has 4.5 acres versus 1.7 acres. It really is a joke that people would try to deny our students an opportunity to be in a $50 million school when we're dealing with the health crisis. And we're dealing with a health crisis in which a cancer institute, because we've had some people recently die of cancer, could be very instrumental to the city of New Brunswick. So I say all that as someone whose daughter has been in the school since she was age 4. She's a sophomore here, where we've built 6 schools. We have a student here who's graduated, who's getting a full ride to Yale College. We have students who are exceptional athletically and intellectually. We are doing well. We as a community need to come together to support the New Brunswick Public Schools so that we can move forward. So I want to end by reading the first paragraph of a letter that knows Lincoln Annex very well. I'm reading the paragraph from Jimmy Staten, the president of the Lincoln Annex Parent-Teacher Organization, a parent at the school. No one knows more about what's going on than a parent at the school. So these outsiders who are coming in, who are saying this is not good, are really just playing a game. And I think we're in too serious a time to deal with things that aren't in the best interest of our students. So I'm writing this letter. This is from Jimmy Staten. Dear Dr. Aubrey A. Johnson, I'm writing this letter in support for the proposal submitted by DevCo to replace the current Lincoln Annex School with a new school to be constructed. The parent-teacher organization of Lincoln Annex, of which I am the president, has reviewed the proposal and the site analysis. We are overwhelmingly excited about the opportunity presented to build a brand new state-of-the-art school at 50 Jersey Avenue at no cost to the taxpayers. This new proposed school is in the heart of the Lincoln Annex neighborhood, and we feel it would be a much-needed improvement over the current schools we have in our sending area. Both of our schools need to be replaced, and to be able to have Lincoln Annex replaced with a brand new school with more capacity to house more students from the neighborhood is a welcome and exciting proposition. I won't read the rest of it, which supports this. So here we have someone who has an expertise. We've got to stop having people who know nothing about the district trying to deny our students an opportunity. No. So with that, we're going to open it up to public comments. But Mr. General, I'd like you to read the rules. How many minutes do people have? We have the authority. If people are duplicative saying the same thing, I have the authority by virtue of Robert's rules to cut them off. We have the authority to limit the amount of time. I really want people who really care about the district to come here and really talk about what's best for our students. So, Rich, what are the rules for public engagement, for public comment?
So the public comments are just for that. They are for public comments. Each person who gets the quote-unquote microphone will get 5 minutes to state whatever they feel they need to state to the Board of Education. And before we get into the public comment portion, I am going to remove the ability for people to unmute themselves so that we can have an orderly public portion of the meeting. We've already had some folks who continue to unmute themselves and chime in with comments, and I'd rather make sure that we have this open to the people so they get their 5 minutes to state what they'd like to say to the Board of Education. So with that being said, I will open up the floor to Danielle Moore. Ms. Moore?
Hi, yes. Danielle Moore?
Hi, Ms. Moore. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can all hear you.
First, I would just like to start off with a question. For the prom in May for the high school, has it been canceled from May 22nd?
Mr. General?
Please don't try to kill my time with talking. I can get an answer soon. Please don't kill my time for one little answer. Hello?
I have to turn it over to the superintendent of schools, but I believe the answer is that we haven't canceled anything. We are waiting for the governor to give us guidance on the reopening of schools. Am I correct, Dr. Johnson?
You're correct, and we probably will not hear that until, I believe, around May 15th. However, we do anticipate that there's a possibility that some of the senior activities may be canceled, but we're going to wait some guidance.
Well, okay, if it is canceled, just a memory to repay the parents where they did pay for that. And getting to with the Lincoln Annex School, and I asked you before, Mr. Johnson, do you live in New Brunswick? You never answered. And for you to say that people from New Brunswick don't know what they're talking about, I've been a resident 43 years, all my life in New Brunswick. Do you even pass through these areas where you're going to tell me, and believe me, Mayor Cahill, and I told you, I'm an activist and I'm very good at winning against the city and the county, due to what I told you I got it approved, help with getting approved for Livingston Avenue to be done. And for you to say, for people don't know what they're talking about, excuse me, I know, I prove everything that I'm talking about. And for you to say that,
Ms.
you're
Moore, I don't know.
wrong.
I think you're, Ms. Moore, I've never said those statements, so I think you're misrepresenting.
Yeah.
My statements about Lincoln Annex was that I personally do not believe that its location is safe with the amount of traffic that comes in and out of that area. I said that I have Arjuna waiting. I don't
want you to cut up my time. I still want to have my 5 minutes to talk.
I allowed you to say it twice, and I have never said that the people of New Brunswick don't know what they're talking about. So I must correct you.
You are calling us outsiders.
Second thing.
You just said it a moment ago.
Okay. So I'm just letting you know that's my position, my personal position. Thank you.
You just said it a moment ago, but like I said, I have evidence to show.
To the chair. Please direct your questions to the chair.
Can I please finish talking? No. I have evidence where you wouldn't even take the time to really look at to show how that is not no area for no school to be. While sexual harassment with all the groups over there, the drugs, how dangerous the road is to cross there for children, how many accidents. Oh, I'm a person, like I said, why I win against the city and the county, because I prove my point. But you refuse to even look at anything for that. Due to where I'm telling you, due to where it's so dangerous, I just got no turn on red for Jersey Avenue and Handy because people do not respect pedestrians there. I just had that. I won with that done. So for you to say that I don't know what I'm talking about, you're putting these kids in extreme danger with crossing French Street, where it says that you cannot even cross French Street without the walkways now, which I had put up also as well. And how many accidents, how many people have gotten hit on French Street and Jersey Avenue. It is not no area for a school, and like I said, due to where if you're not in the area, you don't know what goes on. And if you pass through there now, to keep from a gathering, the police have to stay on duty all day over there by Walgreens to stop people from gathering up, selling drugs, sexual harassment. That is not a place for a school at all.
Thank you.
So,
may I respond?
Yeah,
good job.
Yep.
And I think this is, I won't say much after this. I understand what you're saying, Ms. Moore. I have taken that into account. And I assure you, if we move forward with this project, that all of that will be worked upon and cleaned up as possible. That's all I would say. Thank you.
But one thing I will say, I do thank everyone's help with delivering the food to people who cannot come out. God bless everyone with their help and all. But one thing, I still say you're making a big mistake, Mr. Johnson, and it's really going to backfire on you. But like I said, the smartest thing you ever did was make sure you got your contract before you sold the school. Because
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We appreciate your comments. We are now up to 6 minutes, so I really appreciate.
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing.
Thank you. Who's next, Rich?
The next person to speak is John Barnes.
Welcome, Mr. Barnes. Could you state your name and address, please?
Mr. Barnes, are you on the line?
Are you on the line?
I just unmuted all participants to ensure that Mr. Barnes, are you there?
All right, let's move to the next, Rich.
Okay, the next person to speak is Charles Cradable.
Good evening, Board. Can you hear
Can
me?
you state your name and address, please?
Yes, sir.
Certainly. Name's Charlie Cradaville. I'm a resident of Sedam Street, New Brunswick. Want to start my remarks by saying rest in peace to Robert Racine, who I know was a good man and will certainly be missed. I know he was very involved in the community, and my condolences to everyone who knew him. Also want to wish the board president to get well soon. I want to ask about an item you approved at your last meeting, the amendment to the long-range facilities plan. How and when will that be submitted to the Department of Education?
Mr. General?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So that report was submitted to the Department of Education yesterday. The system had to be unlocked. The Department of Education unlocked the system. I signed the data transmission sheet yesterday, and it was submitted online yesterday.
Thank you. So we heard in the Facilities Committee report for the first time an admission that the powers that be, DevCo and the hospital, approached the New Brunswick Board of Education as far back as June of last year. So what that tells me is that all of the statements that you were giving until February, basically over an 8-month or 9-month period, was gaslighting. You were not being honest with us about the plans. These were serious items that should have been on the Facilities Committee report. Yeah, hello?
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Credible.
Go ahead, Mr. Crowder.
Okay, and so now we've gone through this twisted process where supposedly a committee has decided the future of the Lincoln Annex School. And for the record, have you disclosed who is on that committee yet? Will you disclose tonight who are the members of that secret committee?
Exactly.
I believe we have. Dr. Johnson, Mr. General?
No, so Mr. Crowdable has asked, Mr. Gonzalez has submitted an open request for that information. And that information, in order to get that, requires members of the staff to go in and receive it. So the answer is no, you haven't received the answer to that open public records request. So,
all right, so you can stop now. So you're telling me that no one on this call has the names of the people on the committee that are making the recommendation that you're approving tonight. You don't know who made the recommendation. You can't name them. I find that very hard to believe. And I also find it completely disingenuous that you would hide behind the crisis to not respond to basic public records requests. This is just a request for the names of the people on the committee. So give me a break. I'm not going to believe that you actually cannot produce that, because I know for a fact the superintendent must have that information. One of the board members is on the damn committee. Can the board member who's on the committee at least admit that they're on the committee? Which board member's on the committee?
Mr. President, may I just respond a little to that?
Yeah. Dr. Johnson, if you could respond.
Sure. Ms. Cradaville, at the last board meeting, there was someone who asked me exactly who the members of the committee were. I stated the structure of the committee. I stated that the committee was comprised of teachers, 2 teachers.
Right. I was on the call. I want names, okay?
Right, so
I want the names. You can either give them or not, but you're not going to take away my time rambling with the same BS you've been spewing for the past 9 months. I'll move on. You receive your agendas on Friday, I've heard.
The other persons that were also on the committee, as I will repeat to answer your question, were 2 teachers. We had people from the city.
Are you going to give me their names or not? If you're not going to give me their names, you can please be quiet. This is my time, sir. You're not answering my question. I'd like to reclaim my time, sir. This is public comment. This is not the superintendent's report. Please be quiet.
You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
He's answering your question, Charlie.
I'm going to answer.
Is he going to give the names or not?
You made an appearance that nothing was spoken upon. All right. And we had parents from Lincoln Annex as part of the committee, which I said I did not want to give the names because I did not want any type of intimidation at all.
Right, yeah, you're just doing the same crap that you told us last time, man.
Okay, yes, so you stated that,
Richard, am I on mute?
nothing was said.
George Hendricks.
Okay, so I just want you to answer your question. You can have another minute, Mr. Credible.
Yeah,
We're not taking
Charlie,
your
Charlie,
time.
we're not taking your time away. Let the
I'll give you
superintendent
another
answer. We're not
minute.
gonna take
Your
your time away.
All right, if you're not taking my time away, I'll listen.
No,
All right?
no.
But
we
also,
won't.
I'll just ask you to have a little bit more tact and stop using some of the venom and foul language during this conversation.
Oh.
Come on, we're professionals.
Right.
Thank you.
The attorney,
professional.
George,
Yeah.
were you going to say something? Charlie, we're not taking your time. George?
Yeah, he's out of order, calling things BS, using foul language in a board meeting.
Please.
So, all right, let's
You please, Charlie, this is a
Thank you,
public
Dr.
meeting, not a joke, not a city bowling alley meeting. This is a
You're
public
treating
meeting.
it
You
like
act
a
with
joke.
the
You guys
board
are
members.
thinking this
Treating
a joke?
like a joke.
All right, let's let Mr. Credible finish. Okay, Charlie, we're going to start your time now. Go ahead, ask your other question.
Thank you, sir. So it was said before you received your agendas on Friday, I presume the board members review the resolutions before they vote on them. Can you tell me, last month you approved a resolution hiring a law firm, Inglesino, Webster, Weiss, Scala, and Taylor. Did any of the board members happen to catch that you got the name of the school you're trying to sell wrong? You signed and approved a resolution selling the Lincoln Annex, or I'm sorry, the Lincoln Avenue School. That's not correct. Did nobody caught that error?
I believe it was amended.
And it's
Charlie.
not
I think it was
professional.
amended.
That's not professional.
I believe it was amended.
Okay.
Please,
How about this? Did the board members?
Please stop chiming in.
Charlie, it was
Secretary,
amended.
I
Please ask
will-
your other
I
questions.
will-
How was it amended? I have a copy of it. I don't have an amended copy of it. You didn't take another vote. You voted to hire this firm to help you sell the Lincoln Avenue School. You got the name wrong. How about the concern about nepotism? When you took the vote on that, did you realize that law firm is Marnie McCoy's husband's law firm? Did anybody know that when they took the vote?
All right, Charlie, keep going.
Real professional.
Okay. How about this? The resolution, and I did not catch this before the meeting. I wanted to ask about this afterwards. It says DevCo is going to pay your legal bills. How can we trust that the deal is being negotiated fairly if DevCo is paying for their lawyers and your lawyers? How is that at all? Don't you see how crazy that is? How can we have any confidence in the process if you're having DevCo pay your lawyer bills to negotiate this?
Okay.
The bill
okay,
comes
Charlie.
to the Board of Education. The bill comes to the Board of Education. I review it, and then I submit it going forward. The only thing DevCo agreed to do was pay all the expenses. Besides building a $55 million school, they're almost going to spend $5 million ancillary costs like transportation, rent, rehabbing part of the campus, and it would include a legal fee.
Rehabbing what campus?
Right. So
Rehabbing what
I would
campus?
I would submit that these lawyers know who is ultimately paying them, and that DevCo is going to get every penny and then some out of these bills that they're paying for you, because you don't have a representative at the table negotiating. I've said from the start, Mr. Hendricks, you should be playing that role, but instead you seem to be a part of
I
this.
was in on every meeting and every negotiation. Trust me.
Except the one with Janaron and Palladino and Dolce. You weren't there for that, were you?
Okay,
No, I was
Charlie,
there
Charlie,
for the
just continue.
meeting.
Charlie, just continue. That's you're stating your opinion. We disagree. But keep going.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I do want to just finish by saying that, I feel that corruption is contagious, and unfortunately, this board has an outbreak of it. And this was certainly before the pandemic, but you've all sort of fallen into this trap, this sickness of greed and corruption, where this is not normal. Boards of ed don't go around selling their schools to private developers, especially not ones that the taxpayers just paid millions of dollars to open a few years ago. If Dr. Johnson was so concerned about the location of the Lincoln Annex School, he shouldn't have cut the ribbon on it in 2016 when it opened. And so I'll just finish.
You're stating your opinion. Rich, is the time up?
No.
I'm just.
General, is the time up?
I'd like to just finish by saying that it's time for a change in New Brunswick. We have an opportunity to make that change arriving in the U.S. mail this week.
You are muted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cradible. Look, I, as the board secretary, am going to run an organized meeting, and I'm not going to let the members of the public that have come to our meetings and disrupt the meeting and not a modicum of decorum, okay? One thing I'd like to say to you, Mr. Cradible, on behalf of the board, is that when you talk about greed and corruption, you need, and all the members of the public need to understand, there's not one board member who will make one nickel off of any transaction, okay? It's pretty clear to everyone that you've just been a contrarian to this board for the last 10 years. You've taken every opportunity to contradict everything we do, okay? This is just the biggest example of this. There is no legitimate reason to oppose us getting built a brand new $55 million state-of-the-art school for a school that's worth $13 million that doesn't even have a playground. There is no legitimate reason to oppose this. There is no other school district in the state of New Jersey has ever had anybody offer to build them and spend $60 million for a school district where it costs the taxpayers, and you're a taxpayer, Mr. Cradible, it will cost you nothing, okay? So I would like to say, as I get off my soapbox, the bottom line is that we would like to hear legitimate concerns regarding this school, not politicking and propaganda and controversial plans. This is a school that we've worked with the parents of this district and the parents of that school, and we are getting a brand new school to replace a building that's 50 years old, that's two schools that we've merged into one, when we've had an increase of 1,000 students in the last 3 years, especially in that population. So now we will have a school that can fit and meet all the needs of that neighborhood. And this school there are only 87 kids that live within a half a mile of the outside of a half a mile of the new location. So being that said, I'm going to move to the next person. I'm going to let Ms. Julian LaChance say her comments and her questions and her piece, and we are not going to answer any more questions. So please come up. You're given your 5 minutes. We've listened to this for 4.5 months. I'm sorry if I'm not in a manner speaking appropriately, but the bottom line is that this is the right thing. This is the biggest moment that New Brunswick may ever see in the next 100 years. We will get a cancer center to serve all the residents in New Brunswick and the state of New Jersey, and we will get a $55 million brand new school. Thank you. Ms. LaChance, please.
You are
Make
unmuted.
your comment.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Ms. LaChance.
Please state your name and address.
Yep, my name is Julian LaChance, and my address is 88 College Road West in Princeton, New Jersey.
Princeton.
Okay. Yep.
Go ahead,
So as I
comments.
said, thanks. Yep, my name is Julian LaChance. I'm an engineer and research scientist employed by Princeton University in the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering. I've spoken to the board in the past, so as you know, I've professionally served as an engineer designing submarines, helicopters, and jet engines. I've performed smart grid optimization in Zurich, firmware engineering in New York City, and bleeding-edge mathematics research alongside field medalists. I have come to speak out against the sale of the Lincoln Annex School in favor of development on a highly contaminated site at 50 Jersey Ave. How dare you, Mr. Caldwell, deny me of my credentials as an engineer when discussing the dangers of this site? I have no political interests. The dangers of vapor intrusion are very real. So I've read through the site comparison report that you posted on your website as authored by DMR Architects in Langen. To quote from this document, the Lincoln Annex School property has an active NJDEP SRP case covering the entire property and has similar environmental conditions to the 50 Jersey Avenue site.
This report goes on to describe the presence of radon and VOX, volatile organic compounds, at 50 Jersey Ave, the brownfield designation, and the additional requirement for long-term groundwater monitoring, as well as other substantial problems which are non-existent at the current Lincoln Annex School. So can you expand upon this conclusion then that there exist similar environmental conditions between the two schools, given these disparities?
Ms. LaChance, I would just say to you that if you wanted to debate this with our engineers at a later date, we welcome that. But we are not experts like you. So all I know is that our engineers, we've relied on in the past. They've put in vapor intrusion barriers, which have been successful in the past 6 projects, like Mr. Spencer has indicated. And we're very confident that our engineers have all the expertise and experience, like you, in order to provide us a school that is very safe for all staff and students. So if you have any other comments, we welcome them.
I understand the types of environmental remediation strategies that I anticipate they will implement, including the vapor intrusion barrier that you mentioned. But I worry that people don't understand the level to which this site is far more dangerous than the existing site. Can anyone on the board tell me what radon gas is and why it's dangerous?
No, that's not appropriate.
No
Not
comment, Ms.
appropriate?
LaChance. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make for the board?
Yes, I do. Radon gas, for those who don't know, is a radioactive gas and is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. According to the EPA and the Surgeon General's office, radon exposure results in over 20,000 deaths each year in the U.S. This is one of the contaminants mentioned in the report that you guys posted on your website. In addition to that, there's the presence of chlorinated solvents. This is a family of chemicals used in commercial and industrial applications. They, dissolve organic compounds like fats and greases and may be used to produce other chemicals. For example, degreasers, paint thinners, and pesticides all rely upon these chlorinated solvents to function. Can you tell me exactly which chlorinated solvents are present at 50 Jersey Ave? Because these are mentioned in the report as well.
Richard, this is George Hendricks. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is way beyond the expertise of the board, but as Ed Spencer said, and I've been the board attorney for 26 years, that high school site, the New Brunswick High School on Route 27, was one of the most contaminated sites in the area, and we remediated it to residential standards. We'll do that, whatever it takes, at the expense of DevCo, to remediate that site to residential school standards. So whatever the compounds are, radon or any other compound that would be on that site will be remediated, period. So we don't need to debate it with the chemical engineer from Princeton. Our people will remediate it as we did with other sites, all the sites.
So I'm not sure the board is quite clear on what is involved when they say environmental remediation. So when the groundwater and soil is contaminated to this level, typically they'll cap the land, so put a concrete barrier as well as the vapor intrusion barrier to some extent that was mentioned here, right?
You're arguing engineering. Our engineers will do what they have to do to make it safe. You're trying to come up with a specific proposal. As we go forward, you want to give your input to our engineers, fine. But the board isn't going to deal with this issue. They know the site will be remediated to make it safe for the students, the teachers.
This land will never be safe. And let me explain to you why. In addition to the presence of radon gases, even existing within the soil, there's additionally off-site contamination. So you can cap the land and you can put your boots, put the boots in the foundation, but this site will never be fully safe. The particular contaminants that are present in the soil at 50 Jersey Ave do not exist at the current site. That's why there is this brownfield designation, and these present a vapor intrusion risk.
The present site has an environmental issue, and in fact, it was encapsulated, and there's
but not nearly at this level.
Restrictive deed filed with the Department of Education. So I don't think
I'm
there's
aware-
a site in New Brunswick that does not have contamination issues, maybe
The
short
current
of
site is
Bugalo
not
Park.
a brownfield designation site. The current site is not. The current site has PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, but it does not have radon gas, which causes lung cancer. So, okay, let's get away from this discussion.
So, Mr. Chance,
I-
if you wrap it
let me
up,
change the
we're now at
topic.
6. We are now at 6 minutes, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to please wrap up your statement so we can move on to the next participant.
Sure. I wanted to end by telling you the story of another school district. There are plenty of horror stories out there involving students harmed by vapor intrusion, but I'm going to focus on the elementary schools in Franklin, Indiana. In 2015, parents began coming forward with stories about remarkably high pediatric cancer rates in their town. Stacy Davidson's son Zane had just been diagnosed with leukemia, while Carrie Reinhardt's daughter Emma died from glioblastoma, a rare form of brain cancer. In 2018, a team of journalists sat down with 20 of the students who had been diagnosed with cancer between 2009 and 2014, identified where these students spent their time, and were able to link the cases back to a contaminated well across the street from the town's elementary schools. When air studies were performed at the request of the Franklin community school leaders, what did they find there? Radon and chlorine.
Ms. LaChance, I'm sorry, but, you know, that was another minute I gave you. It was obviously going to go a few more minutes. We really appreciate your concerns. At some point in time, we will let our experts debate this with you. I don't know what about that school district in Indiana is relevant to New Brunswick. I can tell you that I believe the contaminants that are on the proposed site are the same contaminants in a building that I've been working at for 22 years that has been successfully remediated, and we successfully continue to do groundwater monitoring. So we thank you very much for your comments. We feel we have the expertise and the people on staff to ensure, just like the high school, the current Lincoln Annex, the Board of Ed building, Lord Sterling School, that we will remediate the site like we have in the past with no issues. I will now turn over the microphone to Lilia Fernandez.
You are
Let's
unmuted.
not have a conversation. Let's just let them speak.
Go ahead, Ms. Fernandez. Your 5 minutes is starting now. Ms. Fernandez, are you there?
I can't hear you. Is she there?
Okay,
She's
yeah,
there.
she's
She's
there.
trying to speak, but you have her muted.
Yeah. I unmuted her. I don't know why it's not working.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so hold
Okay.
on. Let me stop the clock and reset it. Go ahead, Ms. Fernandez.
And I appreciate Mr. Hendricks and Caldwell do not interrupt me like they were doing with Ms. LaChance and take up my time. We listened to all of your congratulating yourselves and each other, and I don't know quite why, because less than 40% of students in this district meet state standards in testing. Only 27% of high school students meet SAT English requirements, and like 40% meet the math requirements. But putting that aside, I'd like to ask why every time you open up for public comment, you preface, as you did today, Dr. Caldwell, you preface it by making your own personal opinions and statements and scolding and warning us. Why do you demand that we address you with respect when you clearly don't respect the citizens and residents of this city? You continuously insult our intelligence, particularly, Mr. Giannaroni, with the fact that you, Mr. Palladino, and Frank LaDolce signed an agreement to sell Lincoln Annex back in October. And for all these months, you all have been denying this and lying to the parents. And what's more, I've heard that the parents who were on the committee to help make this decision, the people you put there as window dressing, apparently are people who don't even speak English and didn't understand what the hell was going on. Okay? So that's pretty ridiculous. We're not falling for this. I also don't understand why it is that you, Dr. Caldwell, Dr. Johnson, and others keep saying that those of us who are opposed to this plan opposed to sending children to the warehouse, to disrupting their lives, to dislocating them, displacing them, are outsiders who have no expertise and know nothing about anything. I'm a university professor, thank you very much, and I have a doctorate, okay? I've spent many, many years educating myself. And moreover, I actually live here in New Brunswick and in Middlesex County, unlike our superintendent, Dr. Johnson, or like you, Mr. Giannaroni. Now, I also don't see it very respectful that you only gave us one day's notice to be able to weigh in on the site report for the new proposed Lincoln Annex plan. Does that seem like an adequate amount of time for us to be able to do this? And to Mr. Hendrick's point that, you know, Ms. LaChance is going into too many engineering details about the environmental remediation and contamination of 50 Jersey Ave, how can you be so confident that the engineers are going to be able to eliminate all of that and make it safe? We are talking about small children, little bodies, less than 80 pounds. These kids absorb contaminants and chemicals and carcinogens at much higher rates than adults do. So, that's interesting that Mr. Giannaroni, your office contains contaminants as well, but I'm sure they are not penetrating your body at the rate that they will a 9 or 10-year-old. Okay? Yep. I find it completely absurd that Dr. Caldwell is distorting the facts in this moment of unprecedented global crisis that is having such a profoundly life-altering impact on our entire society, and especially on its most vulnerable members, many of them right here in New Brunswick. It is beyond any rational thinking to understand how you how you distort the reality to continue to push this project forward. And Dr. Caldwell made the claim in his op-ed that Dr. Martin Luther King would support such a thing. Really? Would Dr. King support sending children to a warehouse? Would he want to send thousands of black children to a warehouse for years to come? Would he support sending them to a toxically contaminated site where they might get cancer? When RWJ is up to its ears in infectious disease, overwhelmed with a public health emergency, when the state has seen at least 6,000 of its residents die, the economy is completely crippled, hundreds of thousands in New Jersey are unemployed, and the children of New Brunswick are facing an unprecedented emotional, physical, psychological, and economic strain, that you continue to advance the plan to disrupt their education needlessly to fulfill powerful people's ambitions for their development projects? There's a saying in Latin, cui bono, who benefits? And I would walk through an explanation of how exactly Lincoln Annex's current children will benefit from this project when they will be shipped to the warehouse school for several years, experience enormous upheaval and hardship. Why is it a good policy to disrupt their lives? Their families are going hungry right now. Their parents are out of work. Family members are dying as a result of this virus. And you want to add to their burdens? If you were not convinced before the pandemic that this was a bad idea, I would think that the illness, woe, and mayhem and complete despair that we are currently experiencing might soften your hard hearts and persuade you that this is morally reprehensible. And let me end by saying that I experienced a horrific experience with COVID-19 2 weeks ago, perhaps similar to what Board President Solis may be going through now. And when you fear for your health, your safety, and your life, you reflect deeply, I tell you, on the choices you've made, on the legacy you will leave if you were to depart this earth at a moment's notice. And you consider what you've done in your life. And I wish for all of your sakes that it would not take illness and woe to convince you, Hendricks, Johnson, Caldwell, Giannaroni, all of you, every single one of you, to convince you to see the light and find some moral clarity. If you want to build a new school, build the new school first. Don't displace these kids and disrupt them.
Thank you for your
Thank
comments.
you very much, Mr. Hernandez.
Okay. Who's next?
Mr. Ramon Gonzalez?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
we can.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I have just a couple of just a few questions, and then a quick closing comment. My first question has to do with resolutions O and S that you will be voting on, that have to do with the appraisal, the independent appraisal of the Lincoln Annex site, and also with the acquisition of the 50 Jersey Avenue site. Now you are going to vote at the hire an appraiser. I have a question. Since you have to understand, you did not put this property out for bid. So this is a no-bid sale that is occurring here with a private development group. So when you say you're going to do an appraisal, are you doing an appraisal? Because I've heard now twice, two people mention that the property is worth $13 million. I don't know how you got that since you haven't done the appraisal yet, and you spent $22 million on it. But are you doing an appraisal based on the highest and best use of that property, or are you doing an appraisal based on what the school that is currently there? Could someone answer that for me?
I can answer that question, Dr.
Go ahead, Mr. General.
So, Mr. Gonzalez, the appraisal was actually completed already, and I don't know, Mr. Hendricks, you can answer if you'd like, but the appraisal was completed. We hired the same appraiser who appraised the building for us when we bought the building, and it's my understanding that he appraised the building based on our purchase price and our whatever method he used in terms of our use.
It's not the highest and best use. It's an appraisal of the fair market value. The highest and best use would be in a condemnation, but this is not a condemnation. This is just the purchase price. We wanted to have it appraised to see what it was worth. New Brunswick just had a general reassessment of the whole town, and I think it was assessed at less than $13 million. Not that it was taxed, but they have to assess every piece of property in the town. But this appraiser is a certified AIA appraiser. He did it, and he came up with $13.4 million as the current fair market value of the Lincoln Annex where it currently is.
But in other words, you're talking about the fair market value as a public school. Because if, for instance, if a real estate developer wanted to build condos right down in the middle of downtown, the highest and best use value of that site would be much higher. Do you agree?
It might be. I don't know. I'm not an appraiser, but I tell you, you're talking apples and oranges when you say the highest and best use. The current thing is, what's the value of the school now that's there and the property that's there, not the highest and best use. I think. Okay,
that's fine.
Your point, I don't want. It might be worth more. It might be worth less. I'm not an appraiser. He was there.
I guarantee you, it's worth a lot more. I guarantee it's worth
fair market value. That was it.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Let me go on to my other questions, please. You mentioned the issue of the busing, because the school district spent, I think, about $8 million on busing last year, and my estimate is that for half the students, it would cost to bus half the students from the current Lincoln Annex to the Van Dyke would be about $2.6 million over 3 years. If this school were to take 5 or 10 years to build, we're not saying it will, but let's say it does, who will pay for the extra busing? Is that DEFCO? Is that in any kind of written agreement?
Yeah, Mr.
I can
General?
answer that question, Dr. Caldwell.
Or Dr. Johnson?
Dr. Johnson, you want to answer that question?
As a lawyer, I can. It would be
I was
that
on
they
mute.
would
I'm
have
sorry.
to
Go
pay
ahead,
the
Mr. General. You can answer that.
Okay, yeah. So, Mr. Gonzalez, the busing for the 3 years will all be paid for by DEFCO, yes. And in terms of cost, just so everybody knows, right now we currently have 6 buses that go to Lincoln Annex School. 3 are for special education students, and 3 are for the gifted and talented students that are bused to Lincoln Annex School. Those buses average $38,700 a bus. We would then need another 12 buses to bus the students. So at $40,000 a bus, that would be $480,000 a year plus the other $240,000. So we are estimating that to bus all the students to the school is about $700,000 a year. And yes, that will fully be paid for. We will go out to bid for those buses. The lowest bidder.
Okay, but question: if it goes beyond, if it goes beyond 3 years, who will be responsible?
They will.
They will. It's in the agreement.
All right. Let me keep going because I don't want to waste my time here. When Mr. Palladino spoke on February 25th, he never mentioned that you were increasing the size of the school by 350 students. Was that a recommendation of the committee? Was it a recommendation of DevCo? Because 350 is a considerable increase, and yet you still have the same $55 million price for the school.
Well, the original price, this George Hendricks, was $50 million, and it went up, but it was in the insistence of the district, who are a participant in this arrangement, that we wanted the school to be larger. And we implored upon DEFCO, and more particularly the funding source, Robert Wood Johnson Barnabas, to pay us more money so we could build a larger school.
Okay. All right. So then my final, just my point is, I want to congratulate for the fact that you finally got, after 4 months, one parent to testify at a public meeting in favor of your plan. Unfortunately, the parent sent a letter, didn't even bother to come and testify personally, even though they are a PTA president. But congratulations, you finally got somebody to support your perspective. Because I, as someone who lives in New Brunswick, who is a professor also at Rutgers, I'm sick and tired of being called an outsider by Mr. Johnson, when we actually pay his salary. We're taxpayers here, and we pay his salary from when he comes from TNEC to work over here for us. And I want to submit that if this was a suburban school district, no superintendent would ever dare talk to community people and parents at public hearings the way Mr. Johnson has, and the way some of the rest of you have. People in suburban districts fear their parents and the community. They respect them because they understand that they employ them. So I really feel that you are disrespectful of us. You're being disrespectful of us just because. No, let me finish.
I just want to say something very quickly, and then I'll let you finish.
No, this is my time, sir. This is my time, not your time. No, you
Let
have your
him finish. Let him finish, and we'll respond.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure he understands that those comments were made by Vice President Caldwell, a longtime resident of New Brunswick Board of Ed, whose students are going through the school system. So for all that are in the public who feel that Dr. Johnson made those comments in the beginning of the meeting, that is not correct. Dr. Caldwell made the comments, and I'm sure he's more than willing to stand behind those comments. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Absolutely. Okay. And you were never called outsiders. I never called you outsiders. So listen, Ben.
Well, somebody was referring to us as outsiders. All right. So, all right, and so I just want to urge you.
Again, Dale's right.
Okay, my last request is to Mr. Giannarone. You mentioned that I have a pending request, Oprah request. I don't understand how it is so difficult to provide those requests while at the same time you have committee meetings. You said that this committee met after it got a proposal submitted on April 10th. It met. It filed recommendations. Were those recommendations done in writing, or were they done orally? Did they call you up and say, "Oh no, we've all decided that 50 Jersey Avenue is the best site," or did they give you a written report from the committee to the board? Could someone answer that to me?
Yes, I can answer that question. Mr. Gonzalez, we conducted that meeting virtually. We had all the plans available for all the site committee. We sent it to them ahead of time. They reviewed it, and we conducted all the meetings virtually.
And all the members of the committee were there and voted on it. Because, you know, Mr. Giannarone, I listen to me. I will eventually get the names of the people. You can't keep them from us forever. And I will, if necessary, call every one of them up to verify that they were at a meeting and that they voted knowingly about what this plan was about. So please be sure you're being truthful.
I don't know if every person was a member of the committee was on the phone, but the members of the committee are on the phone were there. Okay, and frankly, those committees, I know that Mr. Staten told me as the PTO president, he spoke to over 40 parents at Lincoln Annex School, and he told me that there are those 40 parents all fully support this project. So no one is worried about you getting the names, and just like you said, Dr. Johnson said, feel free to reach out and do whatever you need to do. But this is an excellent moment for the school. I still haven't heard a legitimate reason on why, and I know people accuse me of not living in New Brunswick, okay? But I tell you this, If someone ever came to my district where I live and told me they're going to build me a free school for $55,
Contamination.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
would-
no.
The contamination.
All right, let's
Thank you.
Well, no,
move on to the next.
but Mr. Johnson, wait a second. I could just want to finish. I am not opposed to a new $55 million school. No one has ever been opposed to that. What people are opposed to is that you want to have 700 children dislocated for 3 years for building the school. Let Robert Wood Johnson build the building first and then move them over there, and then they can have Lincoln Annex if they want to. But you want
Never
the
happened.
children to pay for it for 3
Never
years.
happened.
And it's not going to be, in other words, they're not paying money. They're paying with 3 years of their lives going back and forth, being shuttled like cattle because Robert Wood Johnson wants this building right now. That's what's happening.
Dr.
All right.
Caldwell.
So thank you. I'm done. I'm done.
One
No,
question and then we'll move on.
let's move on. Let's move on.
Here's what I'd like to say to you, Mr. Gonzalez. I appreciate, and the whole board and superintendent appreciates that concern. But here's what I would say to you. If the School Development Authority ever had money to build us a school, and they came in tomorrow and they said, we are going to build you a new school, and it's going to be Roosevelt, like it was Redshaw, or it's going to be Lincoln Annex, the plan would mean, just like we have in the past, we would have to move those children from that school to the beautiful Pathways campus, and they would go there just like Paul Robeson's school just did for the last several years while we built the replacement school. So
Beautiful.
okay, I know that
All right,
is the
let's
one. Okay, so therefore, just let you know, that is our plan to, what we have to do to replace our schools in New Brunswick. And that is the unfortunate part of it. But in order for us to not look at the now and look at the future in New
Unnecessary
Brunswick
part of it.
and plan for the next 100 years, these are the
All right.
steps that we need to take in order to build the school.
All right, Rich, let's let the people speak, okay? You know.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Dr.
Again,
Caldwell. The last person on the list to
keep
speak
it
is Linda Stork. Ms. Stork, are you there? Let me unmute everybody. Maybe she's on mute. Give this a second.
I'm trying to talk here.
La
Okay, there
siguiente
you are,
persona
Ms.
que va a
Stork.
hablar
We
va
can
a
hear
ser la
you.
señora
Can you hear
Sol.
me now?
You're selling
Yeah.
the school out for free. You're selling the school for too cheap.
Hello,
La
can you hear
señora
me?
Sol te está diciendo de...
No. Doctor Fontañez, esa no fui yo.
Give me a second. Let me just.
A mí no me están
Bien,
escuchando.
señora, por favor. Traduzca bien.
Can you guys hear me? This is Linda
Yes,
Stork.
Lindy. Yes, I hear
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'm going to start at the beginning.
State your name, please. State your name.
Linda Stork, 12 Park Boulevard.
Thank you.
Yeah, that welcoming speech from Dr. Caldwell. Wow. What a way to greet the public. And I
Exactly.
also claim not to have said these words, but yeah, to be accused of saying that it's outside, it's rabble rousers, it's people sowing division in the community. I've been here. Danielle said she's been here all 43 years of her life. I've been here longer than that, and it's not even my whole life. But yeah, like I had my kids and raised them here. They went to the public schools. I worked in these public schools for over 30 years. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a little, somewhat of a background to have a credible opinion here. And to be told that I'm just, somebody who wants to sow division in the community and that I don't really have the interest of the children at heart, I don't know where that was coming from. Well, actually, I kind of do. This is not the first time that Dr. Caldwell, even going way back to when I did have children in the school, and ironically that somebody would bring up Julian, our engineering expert, living in Princeton, as a disqualifier for her professional opinion. When I tried to bring up something one time to the board, something that happened with my daughter in a certain policy, and I was told by Dr. Caldwell that no, we weren't going to change the policy will work just fine because that's how it works in Princeton. And how that made me feel, I was so, because I'm experiencing it. My daughter is experienced that it's not working in New Brunswick. I have a pretty good idea of what works in New Brunswick. I have a pretty good idea. I mean, it's just, I wanted to cry thinking about where it was thought to be appropriate that my children would have gone to school if they were a few years younger. Like, how am I the one that doesn't care about kids? When I mentioned to one of my friends that's from Rhode Island that it would be illegal to build a school on the 131 site in Rhode Island, she said, yes, Rhode Island learned by experience. They passed laws just making it illegal because all that remediation and all that stuff. No, this is not in the best interest of children. Now, the other side, that all of a sudden it's a different side. And you know what? The whole way the thing is being done, this whole attitude towards us that we were like rumor mongers trying to stir up the community and pretending you had no idea what we were talking about. Oh my goodness. Didn't you just say that you've known since last, I don't know, June? Before last summer. And apparently some people in the community have known longer than that. And yet when we try to bring it up and get an honest discussion going on and be able to have time to really look at all these things and look at other options, because, showing and making up a little committee, which I heard the parents thought there should be more parents on it, but the superintendent didn't think so. Why would you not want as broad a participation as possible? And why would you do it at the last minute and only give two options? That's like a little trick you do with the, toddlers. You want for your snack the apple or the orange. You're not going to give them the choice. You only give them the choices that are acceptable to you. That wasn't really like a site search. That was just lesser of two evils. And yes, I think that the lesser of the two evils has been chosen, but that is a very low bar. And there just hasn't been the time and the effort put into verifying. And I say this as someone who originally advocated for that site, but we're going back 30 years when Lincoln was first
30
overcrowded.
seconds left, Ms. Stork.
Yeah, so it is geographically much more central, but these environmental concerns are real. And to pretend that we're just like making this stuff up and that we don't care about the children, I think that's just really beyond, like, it just makes me really sad that it's come to this. It's really been reduced to kind of like name calling and trying to make us out to be. I mean, if we have differences of opinion, fine, but to use that to say that obviously we don't care about the children, then who really doesn't care about the children? Really?
Well, thank you, Ms. Stork. Thank you very much for your comment. Dr. Caldwell, that was all the members of the public that registered their intent to speak for the board policy before the board meeting. So we will now close the public portion of the meeting.
I want to speak. Hello?
I want to speak too.
I do also.
I am sorry, I apologize, but per the board policy, all members had to register their intent to speak before the board meeting.
That wasn't how you did it last time.
Give me a minute.
Point of order.
You are muted.
Okay, so I put everybody on mute. If everybody would just give me a second so I can manage the next part of the meeting where Dr. Caldwell will move us to the next part of the agenda.
Are they unmuted?
Okay, Dr. Caldwell, I have unmuted you, and I am
And
in
the
the
board?
process of unmuting the Board of Education members so we can do the rest of the business.
Have to vote on consent agenda?
Yeah, item number 12, the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
A roll call, Mr. General, please.
Okay.
You are unmuted.
Mr.
You all are
Ortiz.
selling
Why
these
didn't you let the
children
public
out.
speak? Why are you silent?
You are muted.
Go ahead, Mr. Ortiz. Board members, you'll have to unmute yourself in order to vote, because I don't have everyone's name on here. So I will unmute any members of the public. If you do start to speak during this portion of the meeting, I will just going to remove you at this point in time. Okay, so if you wish to participate and hear the rest of the meeting, please adhere to the proper decorum. Thank you. So I'm going to unmute everybody so I can take a roll call vote of the board.
You are unmuted.
Mr. Ortiz.
Yes.
How can you say you represent the public when you won't let them speak at your meeting?
Because they're devils.
Close
Let
down.
the people out.
Shame on you. You're public
This is
officials. You're elected.
environmental racism. Environmental racism. Environmental racism. Evil.
Just so everyone on the board knows,
Shame.
as people speak up, I am removing them for the meeting, and they will no longer be able to
Thank you.
join the meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
General.
so if you just bear with me a minute as we
Evil.
continue
Devils.
I will get some decorum
The
back.
people united will never be defeated. Shame on y'all. Shame on you.
Shame.
Shame on you
Okay.
changing the rules for your convenience.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Shame on you all.
Mrs. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla,
Yes, abstaining on O, S, T, U, and V.
so noted. Mrs. Shukaitis,
Yes, I abstain on O, S, T, U, and V.
so noted. Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Varela,
Is she there?
yeah. Ms. Varela,
All right, we'll just skip her.
I think she's,
Who owns you?
Dr. Caldwell.
Yes. Okay.
You don't represent the people.
Item
Shame.
number 13, the Finance Committee report. Is there a motion to accept the Finance Committee report?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, Mr. General.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla, Mrs. Shukaitis,
Yes, I abstain on page 11.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Varela, are you there? Nope, I think she got dropped. I will contact Ms. Varela.
Okay.
Dr. Caldwell,
Yes,
motion approved.
excellent. And Mr. Ortiz, the Personnel Committee report?
Yes, the Personnel Committee met on 4/24. We went over the agenda provided by Dr. McCoy. I have not received any, changes or questions from the other board members because it's confidential. I need a motion to accept
So
the
moved.
personnel report as amended.
So moved.
Second. Second?
Second.
Excellent. Roll call, Ms. General.
Okay. Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Ms. Padilla,
Yes.
I'm listening to
Mrs. Shakaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Ms. Varela, has it, oh, here's Ms. Varela coming back in right now. Ms. Varela, is that you rejoining us? No. Okay, Dr. Caldwell.
Yes. Item 14
Okay,
approved.
so motion approved.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dale, this is
The
George
board has been
Hendricks.
infected
George
with the
Hendricks,
sickness
can
of
you hear me?
corruption. This
Yep.
is not
Can you hear
normal.
me?
Yeah, go ahead, George.
We should not adjourn yet. We should have a provisional roll call adjournment, but I think Mr. Janarone has to call Patricia Varela to record her vote on the consent agenda, on the Finance Committee report, and the Personnel Committee report. So maybe we should give him a minute. Richard, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you call Ms. Varela and see if you can reach her to record her vote on those three resolutions: the consent agenda, the Finance Committee report, and the Personnel Committee report.
Okay,
before
matter of
we
fact,
adjourn.
I am on the phone. I'm going to get Ms. Varela on the phone right now. She didn't leave the meeting. I accidentally removed her from the meeting, so.
Okay, we figured that, but that's okay.
Having Deb go pay your legal fees in conflict with
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
When you
Oh, hi,
say-
Ms. Varela, how are you? So I have you on the phone with,
You're breaking your contract, sir.
I have you on the phone. We're taking a vote on,
Consent
the
agenda
on the
first.
Consent agenda, okay? So it is your turn to vote on the consent agenda item.
Okay.
Do you vote yes, no, abstain? Yes. Okay, so I'm recording a yes vote for Ms. Varela on a consent agenda. Now, on the finance report items.
Vote yes also.
Okay, thank you very much. And the Personnel Committee report.
Why is New Brunswick Board of Education silencing critics against Lincoln Annex?
Go ahead, Ms. Varela.
Yes, I vote on it also.
Ms. Varela
Okay, now
votes yes.
now the motion for adjournment, Richard.
Okay. We've got
Thank
that.
you, Ms. Varela.
Roll
Dr.
call.
Shame on you for selling out.
We've motioned. Roll call. Rich?
Yes, I have the Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Sadowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Seawood,
Yes.
Ms. Sevilla, I probably remove Ms. Rhea. Ms. Shakaitis,
Yes.
Mr. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Varela, Dr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Resign.
We are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Resign.
Okay,
I
good
thank
job,
you.
everyone.
Resign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Resign.
All right, take
Good
care. Be
everyone and
safe.
be safe.
Have a
Okay,
good night.
So, good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Hope you all have coronavirus.
Goodbye.